Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to talk about strange adventures. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about strange adventures. This is from DC Comics, Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and Evan Doc Shaner. So, what this is a 12-issue complete story, right? So you can pick this up. It's a Black Label book. Is it mature readers? I don't know. This is one of those weird Black Label things where DC advertised the beginning of Black Label as mature stories for adults, that kind of thing. I really feel like if you're, there's some adult themes in here, but that's mostly it. So I would probably rate this like a PG-13 film kind of thing, along with all the action and, there's war in here and the horrors of war that's in here, and some adult themes about kids, losing kids, that sort of stuff. So it's not really a Black Label book per se. There's not a bunch of sex. There's no curse words. When they do curse, it's this usual comic book stuff of all the different symbols and stuff like that, which I found a little bit strange for a Black Label book. If it's gonna be a DC Black Label book, then throw some fucking F words in there or something. Anyway, this is written by Tom King, who I don't know if I've talked a lot on this channel because I mainly do reviews on here. I've talked about him a lot on my podcast, Comic Timing Podcast, with Ian Levenstein and a bunch of other folks that come in and out here and there. But I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Tom King. I think he's a really good writer. However, I think he relies on some tropes a little heavy, more than I'd like to sometimes. One of the things he does frequently, at least in the last couple of 5 years or so, is do multiple storylines, multiple timelines. He was doing that a little bit with Batman. The Batman Catwoman run that just finished up has 3 different timelines, all with the same artist, so it's really difficult to tell what timeline you're in. He does that here in Strange Adventures. The thing about it is, it actually works because he has 2 different artists tell the 2 different stories in the 2 different timelines / narratives. So you have Mitch Gerads, who's doing the more realistic artwork here, and he partnered with him, I believe, on Mr. Miracle, which is also a great comic book if you haven't read that. Although I can't remember if that had multiple timelines or not. And then the other one he has is Evan Doc Shaner, who's doing the more classical cartoony art that you see here. And I say cartoony not as a bad word, but just as more of stylistically. It's a classical comic book look. It's evolved. It's still a little bit modern, but it's what you would expect to pick up a modern comic book. Really detailed, really beautiful, really well done. I cannot say a bad word about either of these 2 artists. They are both phenomenal. And I say phenomenal in that I believe they're also doing the inking and the coloring themselves, because in the credits it just says artists. So, you're led to believe that one of them's doing everything for their side or the other. So some of the pages are split up a little bit like this, where you have, this is Evan Doc Shaner doing the art on the top 2 panels, and then you switch over to Mitch Gerads in the bottom panel. So you have some pages like this where it'll switch in the middle of a page. That is something that I really battled in Tom King's Batman Catwoman run, because you were switching between 3 different timelines on a page sometimes, and it was just very jarring, and it had 1 artist, and there wasn't, it was Clayman for most of the time. I think there were some fill-ins here and there. But most of the time it was 1 artist doing the entire book. So there was no visual cue to separate these different timelines, which this book has in spades because you have the 2 different artists. So it's a little bit easier to follow along in your brain. Is oh, we're back here, we're back there. The other thing, too, is that you're dealing with 2 completely different settings in the 2 storylines. One takes place on Earth with Mitch Gerads. The other one takes place on the planet of Rann with Evan Doc Shaner. So one is the present and one is the past. So that's a nice thing there. The other thing you're kind of led to believe is that you're kind of reading the account of what happened on Rann, or is it the truth sometimes? It's a little hard to tell when you're reading it, because it starts out with Adam... Oh, I just read the page. Shit. Starts out with Adam Strange, like he's signing a book, basically the book that you're reading, this unmarred cover here, and this is his tale of how he saved the planet Rand from this evil alien race, the Picts. And I say Picts, but it's Pyykts. So I'm gonna say Pict, but it's gonna come out Picts, I guess. Anyway, one of those comic book things. So you're at the beginning. You're kind of like, am I reading the real tale or am I just reading the story? Is the book truthful? You know, this narrative raises all those different questions here, which is really well done. Honestly, I could not put this book down. As much as I, sometimes have bagged on Tom King for writing unreadable books like Batman, Catwoman, in my opinion, this is a book that is really well done, really well written, and I think is worth your time. I just finished it literally like 10 minutes ago, and I couldn't wait to talk about it because there's so much I liked about this book and loved about this book, and then just the ending just left me so hollow that I was like, oh, I have to get something out there to just have this release of my feelings. So this may be like a very convoluted review. It may go a bunch of different places like a lot of my videos do, but I'm trying to get to a point where I understand the ending of the book here, and you're going to watch me do it. But I gotta say, this really is worth your time. I would recommend this to other people. It is a really fun story. It's really well told. There's some mysteries in here. There's one that, I called the main mystery of it, I think in issue 8. So that wasn't a surprise to me. And the fact that it turned out the way that I called it, I think was a little bit disappointing. I was hoping for something bigger and better. But it ends up being just kind of a regular mystery. I think my biggest gripe about this is that every Tom King book I read, at least recently, like Mr. Miracle, I had very little problems with when I did read it when it came out. I have to reread it. I have the trade, so we're going to read it again and review it at some point in the future. His Batman run, I liked in the beginning, and then once we had the swerve with Catwoman in issue 50, where she didn't end up marrying Bruce, he lost me. I was just like, this is dumb. I'm down for this wedding. The reasons not doing it lost me. And then to come back and follow up on that with this 12-issue Batman Catwoman stuff, just where they are married, it's like, okay, we'll just figure it out, man. Like, are they or aren't they? And why did you mess with us for 50 issues? So, but that's a different story. This one here, I really did like. I really did enjoy. It has some of the same tropes that I don't like in Tom King's other writings, but I think the art, honestly, and the character of Adam Strange and not knowing enough about Adam Strange in general saved it for me and made it really enjoyable. The great part about this book is that you can come in cold, not knowing who anybody is. You don't have to be an Adam Strange fan. In fact, I don't know that there are very many Adam Strange fans out there in the world, like it's their favorite character or anything like that. There might be, I'm a big Azrael fan or whatever, so there might be some Adam Strange ones, but there's very little like Adam Strange comic books out there. I think the last one was, you usually get like a Rand Thanagar War or War of the Hawkmen, Death of Hawkman. I think there was another Rand Thanagar War. There was another one with Pasquale Ferry before Rand Thanagar War, I believe it was called. It was like 8 or 12 issues. So you have some from time to time. Every 10 years he may get a new miniseries or something like that, but he's not a well-beloved character. Doesn't have an ongoing book that's always running or restarting. So the fact that Tom King had an idea for this character in the story, does it speak for the character? I think the concept is cool. It's kind of like a John Carter of Mars thing, where he's teleported every once in a while, and he doesn't know when he's going to go back. So Adam Strange is a character who would really rather be on Rand than be on Earth. Like, he pretty much doesn't like Earth at all. And that a lot of that has to do with him getting married to the Princess of Rand, Alana, and having a daughter with her, Aaliyah, and wanting to be with his family when he's on Earth. So I get that part of it, and that's why he wants to be more on Rand. And when he's on Rand, he's a space adventurer. He's got a jetpack. He's got a cool costume. He flies around. He saves people. There's none of this mundane, like, day-to-day living stuff that you got on Earth, where he's a nobody, has to work a job, has to do things he doesn't want to do in order to make a living. There's none of that on Rand. He's the hero of the day. So who wouldn't want to live that fantasy the entire time, right? So there's some of that in here in speaking to it, but the conflict that they introduce here with this war with the Picts, this alien race that's invading Rand, really does spark a lot of like emotion and thought. And they are brutal. There's really not really a reason why they're attacking. It's just they're another one of these like mindless space aliens kind of things who you can't read their language, you can't understand them. So they're kind of like at an impasse on Rand. At the meantime, you're following Adam's adventures on Earth after the war. Where is his daughter? His wife is there. They seem to be happy. They're promoting this book. There's something that happens in the first issue that causes an investigation into Adam Strange from the Justice League that involves Batman, and mainly Mr. Terrific is kind of the third character here between Adam Strange, Alana, and Mr. Terrific. And Mr. Terrific starts delving into what actually happened on the planet. He goes and visits Rand, he reads some old files, and he figures out what's actually going on, and then kind of, the book kind of explodes from there, right? What is actually going on? I kind of guessed it a little bit, and I kind of was the last, how issue 11 ended left me a little cold, because it really doesn't have, like, there's not a redemptive arc in any way, nor is there a vengeful arc, or really I'm missing this level of satisfaction from following one character's story all the way through and then getting to issue 11 and just kind of having it end there instead of with number 12. So I think that was kind of the weird thing. And honestly, that's one of the things that Tom King does frequently is he starts writing a typical comic book arc or something like that, or a narrative arc, and then likes to twist it, not in a way that is inventive or new. And that's not a knock on him. I feel like there are so many stories being told nowadays that it's hard to find things that are inventive or new. But it's almost like he builds the roller coaster and you're riding the roller coaster, and then he forgets to finish the roller coaster or chooses to end the roller coaster in a way where you just fall off. And there's no sense of relief at the end of the roller coaster, you know what I mean? Where you're just like, that was fun. I really liked that. There's always this sense of like unfinished business at the end of some of his books that I find that for me just that, and that's this taste in my mouth when I just finished this book that's really got me talking and trying to explore this book, because honestly I this is the only thing I read for the last couple of days, whenever I had a free chance. I really did enjoy this book. It's 12 issues long. It's dense, it's thick, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Each issue tells their own individual story within the two storylines. That is satisfying to to read if you're just like, I'm going to read an issue per day or an issue per time and then move on to something else. You get a little chunk here and there, and it's not so complex that you can't read it in these chunks, which I really appreciate and like from time to time with comic books, because you're reading them and you're going to work or you're doing something else, you're playing with your kids, whatever. And coming back to it, you're not like, wait, what happened? What's the big mystery here? Let me back up. It's simple enough in a way that you can jump on and latch on every time. And as coming out in a monthly series in a format like that, I understand why that is more important than ever, and it also translates in the trade for you to like read it in spurts also. So that is really fun. So there's a lot of great things about the storyline, but like any good roller coaster, it's got to have that sense of relief at the end. You got to have that denouement, and I feel like it tries to do that with different characters instead of the characters you were on the roller coaster with. And you are told what happened, you are told the reasons why, but you don't really get them from the person you're looking for them. It's almost as if you're told that somebody is cheating on a test or cheating on you in a relationship, and then that person disappears and moves off, and that your relationship ends, and you never get to talk with them about what happened or what their reasons were, why they did what they did, was there anything you did, that sort of thing. It's just this empty hollowness at the end of this book that I found so frustrating after loving so much of it. Literally, before I read the last 3 issues of this today, I was like, all right, I really like this book. I'm going to make a thumbnail that's going to be like, I hate to say it, but, and then the video was going to start with me going, I hate to say it, but, cut to the intro, and then me saying, this book was fantastic. I can't believe I loved it. I usually don't like a lot of things Tom King does. And then it just ended the way it ended, and I was like, I cannot say all of those things. I really wanted to. And maybe that is also more of my disappointment also, is that I normally don't like some of the things he does. And it's a weird thing because, like, I know I don't like the things that he does, but I don't dislike them enough not to read his next work, because usually it starts off pretty good. Usually there's a good hook, and there's a great hook here, and man, it's so frustrating. So that's my thoughts on Strange Adventures. It's a strange, fuck it. After the 12 issues, this is cliche as hell, but Strange Adventures is a strange read, because I thought I was on a great ride and then ended up on a so-so one. And boy, is that sucky to say about a book that I enjoyed reading so much up until 30 minutes ago. So thank you guys for watching this long, convoluted review of Strange Adventures. Honestly, check it out. Let me know, what did you think of that ending down in the comments below. I want to know your thoughts. Am I completely off, or did it strike you wrong here too? Let me know down below in the comments, and I will respond to you there. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time in the Funny Pages.